One of the first things you will likely do when booking a cruise is to read online about the ship. There are lots of reference sites. Cruise Critic is one that I enjoy browsing, and it has a lot of information on specific ships. Here are the figures for Sapphire Princess, a ship which I have booked for November, fingers crossed that the cruise doesn't get cancelled. When you look at the stats for a ship, you will see a few critical facts: the number of passengers, the length, the age, and this figure called tonnage. Most people will think, 116,000 tons, okay, the ship weighs that much, and not pursue it further. Actually, it doesn't mean that. Sapphire Princess does not weigh 116,000 tons, and any tonnage figure quoted for any ship has little or no bearing on the actual weight of the ship. So what exactly is tonnage, and how did it come to be one of the critical stats quoted for any ship? To begin with, there are a few different but related ways to measure tonnage, but the commonest is what is called gross tonnage. So how is gross tonnage calculated? Gross tonnage is a measure derived from the enclosed volume of the ship. It's not even entirely linear, as it involves a logarithm of the volume. So it's a measure of volume, not weight. Tonnage is supposed to reflect the amount of cargo that a ship can carry. I have read that it was originally the number of tons that a ship could carry. That's tons spelt T-U-N, an old standardized 240-gallon barrel that used to be used in shipping liquids. 240 gallons is roughly 1 ton of weight. That may perhaps be the origin of tonnage as a ship measure. Of course, the amount of cargo a ship can carry is useful to know for freighters, but pretty meaningless for cruise liners, where basically you, the passenger, are the cargo. But because tonnage became the main measure of a ship's size a long time ago, it has migrated to cruise ships, even though it's really not all that useful. Here is one interesting historical example. If you read about Titanic, you will discover that there were 3 ships in her class: Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic. Since Olympic was the first to be built, all 3 are technically Olympic-class liners. But Titanic had a slightly higher tonnage figure than the original Olympic, about 1,000 gross register tons more. So was she a bit bigger than the sister ship? Not really. Titanic and Olympic were virtually identical. What happened was that the ship designers had realized that the B-deck promenade was hardly used in Olympic, because passengers preferred strolling in the A-deck promenade, which had better views and more open air. The B-deck promenade was wasted space. So the decision was made to enclose the B-deck promenade, and part of it was turned into the well-known Café Parisien, as recreated in the 1999 movie. If you look at the door to the left, it is clear that this was originally an outside area. Would this change have increased the mass of the ship? Not significantly, but it did increase the enclosed volume, hence the increased tonnage, which is still quoted in all the reference books. There is, in fact, a measure of the true mass of a ship called displacement. A ship must displace its own mass of water to float, and so the mass of the water displaced exactly equals the weight of the ship. But the only people who think about displacement are marine engineers, and the figure is never used when discussing cruise liners. So is there any useful information to take away from this? Only that if 2 ships have different tonnages, the ship with the higher tonnage will be bigger, whether it actually weighs more or not. So you can use tonnage to compare ships. And remember that in the end, the quality of the food in the dining room is more important than what a ship weighs.